Good afternoon, and welcome to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. My name is Dr. Vanessa Davis, and I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Programs in the Department of Academic Programs and the Academic Affairs and Research Division. One of the many grant funds that we administer is the Minority Health Grant. This is one of the funds that was created through the tobacco settlement a number of years ago. And what the minority health grants do is they are meant to increase the level of involvement of minority Texans in health education and health occupation fields. 2 years ago, one of the grants that we awarded was to Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center for the expansion and revision of the HotJobs, the Texas HotJobs website. HotJobs is health opportunities in Texas. I think many of you that are here in the audience, as well as a number of you that are watching via the web, because I'll give our audience members a warning that we are webcasting this, are familiar with HotJobs. For a number of years, they have been producing a wonderful print publication that finds its way into every counselor's office across the state of Texas and has been heavily used. A number of years ago, they created a website companion to that, and one of the things that they proposed to do when they applied for our minority health grant was to do a significant revision of that website and to expand its content. So we're very pleased today to have Dr. Craig Cox, who is in the pharmacy program at the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center with us. He's the principal investigator on this project. He's going to be introducing the team from Lubbock that he brought with him that have been instrumental in putting this project together. And they're going to be walking us through what this website looks like, the research that undergirds it, because there is some very impressive research that they have done on the back end, particularly market research, to make sure that the right information is in here for all of the constituencies that are meant to use it. And also talk to us about some of the curriculum and some of the really exciting material that they are making available now to students and educators and parents around the state of Texas, both in English and Spanish. So without anything else, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Craig Cox and let you introduce your team and walk us through what you've been doing. And thank you for coming down here on a blustery November afternoon. I know it's not nearly as windy here as it is out in Lubbock, but...
That's exactly right. Well, thank you, Dr. Davis. We appreciate your hospitality. And I just know on behalf of the group that we have brought from Lubbock, we just appreciate the opportunity to get this grant from the Texas Higher Education Board and to be able to work on this very meaningful project that I think it was a lot of work, but I think there was also a lot of good that came out of it. I would also like to personally thank, and I know each one of us personally thank Dr. Vanessa Davis again for her help throughout the project. I know whenever we had any questions that we couldn't get answered as we were working throughout it, she always had the answers for us and was always there on the other line if we ever needed help. So we wanted to personally thank you for that. So just to get started, I would like to introduce the individuals that are with us. And first, as Dr. Davis said, I am Craig Cox, and I am a pharmacist and an associate professor at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center at the Lubbock campus. And my role there is traditional didactic teaching, and then also some experiential rotation responsibilities at the medical center there in Lubbock. I actually take students on rotation still at an adult medicine site. I round with professionals, both nurses and physicians, and we see patients on a daily basis, and I take my students up around there. Another role that I have, and this is really I think what sparked my interest in this project and in collaborating with this group, is really my involvement as an administrator, which is I'm the vice chair for experiential programs at the School of Pharmacy, and I oversee all rotation opportunities at our 4 campuses in Abilene, Lubbock, Amarillo, and Dallas. And so with that responsibility, we've been working a lot with an online system, our education management software system, and I've just saw a lot of utility that you can get from websites and internet design that really can get not only students that are already involved in health careers, but also trying to maybe spark some interest in students that are in the high school age trying to get started or thinking about pursuing a career in healthcare. So with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Ron Gaddis, who is the president of Visual Reality Productions, a web company, and he is a web designer and developer and has had a number of projects that he's worked on. And this is the second version, actually, of the Texas HotJobs website that he has worked on, and so he's played an integral role in the development of this project. So you'll be hearing from Mr. Gaddis later. And then immediately to my right is Shannon Kirkland, and Shannon is the assistant director, and she works at the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center F. Marie Hall Institute for Rural and Community Health. And she has again played an integral role in this project through her department and had a number of resources that helped us in both initiating and then following through on this project. So just to say a few words, I would like to pass it over to Shannon now, and she will begin the presentation.
Good afternoon. As Craig mentioned, I'm in the F. Marie Hall Institute for Rural and Community Health at Texas Tech Health Science Center, and this type of project is part of our outreach activities in the Institute. And wanted to share briefly, the Institute focuses much of its resources and efforts in working with rural and underserved communities in our 108 county service region. Their programs are divided into 3 core areas: telemedicine and using technology to directly deliver patient care to underserved populations, rural research, working on addressing health disparities for people who reside in rural communities, and third, outreach programs, which is what I am a part of, and that involves the West Texas Area Health Education Center program, a federally funded program that I'll talk more about as we go through the presentation, and also a Double T Health Service Corps, which is geared toward fostering undergrad students' interest in health professions, training programs, and really facilitating their successful transition from undergrad into the health professions workforce. So those core areas of our institute really led us, for a lot of reasons, to be interested in this grant and in this project as a way to increase resources, particularly to rural and underserved populations. And with that, let me give you a little bit. Oh, good, y'all. This keyboard, and this whole setup, in my vision, to be able to see the presentation, we may have a little bit of technical difficulty as I walk through the slides. An overview of our presentation today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Texas HotJobs history, our research findings, and then doing a tour and showing you some of the infrastructure behind the website, the resources for educators, and then our plans for sustainability and for future activities on the website. First, a little bit about our HotJobs history. As Dr. Davis mentioned, HotJobs has been a product that has existed since 1997. It was first created as a print tool by the Texas AHEC network and their partners about 10 years ago. Had probably 40 to 50 careers that were presented, basic information about career opportunities and education programs that offered training in health careers, and it was really designed at that time to engage students in exploring opportunities in health careers. Since that time, technology has really advanced and created other ways that we can better engage students and engage them interactively, and over the last 10 years, the Texas AHECs have really tried to expand resources to meet student needs within their education setting and then at home in their own career exploration activities. The book, and if you're familiar with Texas HotJobs, and I might go around the room and see how many of you are familiar with the print resources, had ever used them before. I see Kathy from the Texas Education Agency shaking her head. The books have really been utilized across the state in health science technology education classes by those teachers and by career counselors in high schools as an exploration tool for their students. The HSTE teachers and the HSTE program out of University of North Texas has been a partner with us since the beginning of the project in developing the materials that would best meet the needs of their classrooms. And they've been a wonderful partner in that. The first Texas HotJobs website was contributed by that partner, by University of North Texas, in 2005, and it was a PDF version of the book that was put online with some lesson plan materials that they had developed. Since that time, we've taken baby steps in terms of developing a website that was more visually engaging as well as more interactive. And then with the grant from the Higher Education Coordinating Board, have really been able to substantially advance that website to what it is and what you'll see today. And we're really excited about the features that we've been able to add to the website. All of that development, as we'll talk, was based on our review of market research, existing websites across the country, and then our own research activities that Dr. Cox will discuss.
Thank you, Shannon. So we're going to move the keyboard over here. So really the first step was, and this was actually running simultaneously as we were developing the website, is that we had a couple of research endeavors that were running just to, number one, give us some ideas of what students and parents really wanted to see in a website, number one, so that we would develop some of those new things, but then also to validate some of the things we had already started developing on the website. And so we undertook a couple of research endeavors that would just briefly go over. And I should note that some more details related to our research findings we're currently working on a couple of publications in academic journals because I think there was a lot of real interesting things we found. But again, for the sake of time today, I'm just going to highlight some of the key things. But it was really interesting through our focus groups and surveys, some of our findings. So our main research objectives, and this really applies to both of our endeavors, was to, number one, look at both student and parent interest and general understanding of healthcare careers. It was interesting first to us to know whether students even were motivated to go to college, and if they were, why, and if they weren't, why weren't they. But then also to look at how much did they really know about health careers, not only the students but also the parents. And then what were some of the different maybe basic demographics that would affect some of those responses to maybe how much they knew about the careers, or why not, why they did or did not want to go to college, whether it was related to cultural differences, familial differences, socioeconomic differences. So again, that was another thing that we were trying to focus on as we went through our research. And then finally, what would be the type of informational messages and the type of media that they would like to see in order to either enhance their current understanding or to expand in an area maybe they didn't know a whole lot about. And so both of our research was really looking at both parents and students. So the first thing that we did was look at focus groups of high school students and parents across the state in 3 different regions. So that's the first thing that I'm going to go over. The second thing was that we performed a survey of high school students, and this was predominantly offered online. However, students that did not have internet access, they were able to complete that survey in the paper format as well. On both of these projects, we worked very closely with the Texas Tech University College of Mass Communications, and you can see the team there listed on the slide. Also, Lonnie Flores with the TTUHSC F. Marie Hall Institute for Rural Health also helped us out on this project. But each of these individuals, we've had several meetings and to get the project going, and follow-up meetings just to work through the research and talk about our findings. So I'd like to thank each of them because they played a very key role in this process. So first with the focus groups, we had focus groups that were held in Amarillo, Dallas, and El Paso. And the way they were set up is we had 2 student focus groups in each of these regions and 1 parent focus group. On average, there was about 10 to 15 students in each group, and there was about 10 parents in each of their groups. And these groups were very diverse, both by socioeconomic status, by ethnicity, by age. They were very diverse groups. Even though they were relatively small groups, they were diverse in nature. Both of the actual parent groups that were held in each region were done bilingually by the moderator, because there were some of the parents that were predominantly Spanish speaking only, or that was their first language. And so we did do that, as well as the parents groups were held conducted bilingually, just to elicit as much feedback as we could from them. Some of the findings from the student groups is that the internet was cited by the majority of students as really their primary source of health career information, and that they felt like when they were going to these sites, the type of information that they were looking for was just the basic information about a major, like what would I need to do to be successful, how many years would it take, how much money would I make, would I get a job once I was done, and those were the kind of questions that they were looking for when they went to these websites. They also said that they relied on online multimedia features. Again, it wasn't that they were just going to websites and wanted to see a bunch of words to read. They wanted something to hold their attention. So whether it was streaming audio or video, that was very important to them. And so that was something that we also kept in mind as we were developing this website, is that it needs to be appealing to this audience, that they don't just want to see words. Podcasting was something that we were going to do when we initially started out of the grant, but we discovered that the students mentioned across the board that this was not a feature that they really used, nor was it of a real interest to them. And so this was something that we did not pursue, because it was, again, something that we found out in the focus groups. Students also said that they relied a lot on television programs, such as Hopkins or Mystery Diagnosis, and there's several other programs, and they said that's where they get a lot of their health career information, which I guess is good, that at least it's sparking an interest. But they then noted later that wasn't necessary. Maybe that's where they're getting their information, but they know it's not always accurate or real life. So, but anyway, I think that it again tells us that they were actually using, the media was somewhat important to them in eliciting information about health careers. Other things they said is that the people that they talk to get this information is really teachers and instructors, which was an interesting finding. In that counselors, it wasn't really that they never went to the counselors, but the counselors were not the number one go-to person. It was actually the teachers and the instructors that they were turning to try to get some of this information, to learn more about careers, to learn more about what it would take to go to college. Other things that they said, students that were interested in pursuing careers, is that the most important thing about a health career was really that they liked the service component, that they knew they'd be helping someone when they embarked on this journey, and that also that there was great job stability. Those were two things that students noted of why, if they did have an interest in health careers, why they did. And then finally, that they did want to have more information. They felt that there was some out there that they could glean. However, that really what was very important to them is to have additional mentoring. And whether that is giving, interacting, as you'll find through our survey data, that it might be interacting with other healthcare professionals and having more role models or professionals in the field to interact with, or whether it's just simply that we're arming more of the counselors or the teachers or the educators with more information so they can share it with them. So those were some of the things that we found, again, from the student groups. Now kind of switching gears and going to the parent groups, there was a lot of similar things that actually parents and students were saying. I think the one thing that really stood out is that the parents actually said that, if they looking back, if they would have had a role model, or if they would have had somebody in healthcare that they could have talked to or learned more about, that they may have pursued a career in that area. And that they really feel like that's critical to their children, is to have somebody to sort of talk to that's in the field. And that if we could, maybe they could either share how exciting and how much of an impact it can really have on society. If we can sort of get that word out, they felt that would be one way to convince them as parents, but then maybe to also convince more students to get interested in this field. Parents also discussed that financial issues associated with the training is one of the reasons why they don't maybe always jump on board and motivate all of their children to pursue this, is that they feel that it may be one of those that if they have a 7-year career, let's say, in a health care field, and the student, their child gets 4 years into it and decides, this isn't what I want to do. Well, what's the impact on that, not only on us financially, but on their student, or on their child, but then also just the family itself. And so there's a lot of cultural differences that could play into that as well. And so that's why the question up there, what if my child changes his or her mind? And I think that was an important thing that was raised through this. Through the different focus groups, and again, this is more information that will come out in the publication, but just focusing on the El Paso group as an example, this group of parents they were of a higher, I guess, socioeconomic status that we had there, that we talked to. They also were probably more tech savvy, more educated when it came to knowing about health careers. And even with that baseline knowledge and, I guess, skill set, they still had major concerns about their child pursuing a career in healthcare. And I think something that we gleaned from this was that potentially that maybe it was some of the culture of the family dynamics and differences that we have between the different cultures, Hispanic, African American, Caucasian, that there are cultural differences between those that may actually come through and supersede some of the other things, such as how much information that they actually know about the careers, what their interest level is, that a lot of times it comes back to the families maybe driving a lot of that and their individual cultural differences. So that was really through our focus groups some of the main things that we found. And then what we did is we actually took that information and it sort of fed into development of the next phase, which was looking at a survey. And the survey was to answer some of the questions that we maybe hadn't had answered in our focus groups, but then any interesting questions that sort of were raised through the parents and student groups, we said, okay, we wanted to develop some questions that would help us to maybe better understand some of those findings. And so what we did is we developed a survey that was about 30 to 35 questions in length, and the students from 24 different Texas high schools participated in this survey, and these high schools again were very broadly distributed across the state, and they came from a diverse group of backgrounds, all the survey respondents. Our actual data set that we looked at represented about 71% of the high school population in Texas. And we were actually pretty rigorous when we were looking at our data. We took a more conservative approach in that what we really wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that our findings, that we could put something behind our findings rather than to find that they were truly significant if we found significant differences. Because we could have looked at the data and had 100% representation of the whole population, but then there would have been a few findings that you maybe couldn't back it up as much. And so that's the reason we sort of shrunk it down a little bit, and we only looked at data that represented 71% of the population, which we still thought was pretty good when you looked across the entire state. So we had 855 surveys that were completed. The mean age of students that completed it was 16 and sophomore standing. 50% of the respondents were female, and there was a good about 65% of survey respondents were minorities and 35% Caucasian. You see the education level there. The median father education of the students was some college. Median mother education was high school. And across all groups, the parental education was very well distributed. So some of the ways that we looked at the data, and we're going to try to keep this real simple because I know what you really want to see is the actual website, and most of our time is going to be spent on that. But we looked at 3 different models. The first one was the pure demographic model, which really what that said is we looked to see if it was how much about the socioeconomic background or what ethnicity a student was, how that individual characteristics, how much that affected their motivation to pursue a health career. Then we took it one step further and looked at the contextual plus demographic model, which was to say, let's look at the school that they're at and the people that they're around at that school. What's the sort of the characteristics or demographics of that school, and how does that impact an individual? And then the third way we looked at it was who are these individuals that the students are talking to get their information and to get this motivation or get their interest in health careers. And so that was the third model. And finally, the last model was looking at the impact of the media on this as well. And so we tried to divide it into 4 different models to see where can we explain some of our results best. So the first model here is the pure demographic model, which was again looking at the individual characteristics of the students that completed the survey. And the only variable that was actually significant was being female. If you were female, you had a positive effect at or an increase in healthcare or health career motivation to pursue a career in healthcare, being female. All other things such as, and we just put a few others, self-reported GPA, ethnicity, age, parent education, none of those showed any significant effect, whether it be positive or negative, on health career motivation for an individual student. So the only thing that we found was being female had a positive effect. And only 3%, what that 3% is only 3% of really the data and the findings could be explained by the pure demographic model. So it was very, very small percentage. When we looked at the actual school that they were attending and the contextual plus demographic model, you can see about 20% of it the variance could be explained by this model. And the only positive finding was the percentage of at-risk students at that institution. And that the higher the percentage of at-risk students at that school, there was greater the health career motivation. Which the only thing that, or one of the things that we thought could explain this is that potentially there are more resources that are fed into these type of schools. That is maybe why there are more students that are interested in pursuing health careers, and that's maybe why there could have been a positive overall effect. Other things looking at the ethnic breakdown, African Americans, Hispanic, or even the percentage of females, all of these actually had a negative impact on health career motivation, which again, for the sake of time, we're not going to get into this, but you probably saw in the first slide that if the female as an individual characteristic was a positive influence, being female, but here when you looked at the percentage of females at a particular school, it actually decreased health career motivation. And we don't know if there's some competition between students when there's a higher percentage of female students at the school or not, but again, that's just an interesting research question that we'll talk about toward the end. Other things was looking at the social network. So who are the students actually talking to when they're trying to get this information? And we saw that motivating them to pursue a career in healthcare, talking to their mother, talking to their friends, and talking with a healthcare provider were the 3 individuals that we found had a positive influence on them wanting to pursue a career in healthcare. Talking to their grandparents, interestingly, actually had a negative overall effect in that it negatively motivated them or decreased their motivation to pursue a career in healthcare. And then finally, talking to their counselors, sort of as we gleaned from the focus groups, didn't really have a positive or negative effect. And then the last variable that we really looked at was in the context of the media, and you can see it on the slide that library, television, internet, all of those mediums didn't really increase or decrease health career motivation. However, one thing that was interesting is one of the questions on the slide, since we were on the survey, since we were developing a website, we asked the students how many health career websites do you know about, or can you list that you have visited? And the students that listed the most websites there was a positive effect on their health career motivation. So it's hard to say whether the students that were going to the sites were already motivated or whether they were finding these sites and that's what was motivating them to pursue a career in healthcare. So it's hard to say it's sort of the cart before the horse, but that was an interesting finding, and I think it was good for us to find that since we were developing a website. So really, to sum this up, and then we are actually going to jump into the website because I know that's what you guys all want to see. But really from our research findings, just to show, and these are just a few examples, that we did use what we found from our focus groups and we did use what we found from our surveys to really drive some of the things that we were doing with the website since they were running simultaneously. And the first thing, that social network was very important. We found that from both the focus groups and from the survey respondents. And so one of the things that we developed that Shannon will be going over is there is a parent section which is very new to the website, and there's a lot of important elements that I think that will be aimed toward parents that didn't previously exist. Talking to healthcare professionals, I think we mentioned that having role models or professionals of the field was mentioned by parents and students. And so we developed an actual part on the website called the Professionals in the Field that, again, Shannon will be showing an example of that so that they can go there. If they don't personally have face-to-face interaction, they at least can see somebody that talks about their career and what they're doing every day. There was a mixed impact talking to teachers and counselors. Remember, they were turning to their instructors, they were turning to their teachers for information, but the counselors, it wasn't really a positive and or a negative impact. So there was a new section added to the website, which was the educator section, which is the people that are already being turned to for information. We're going to try to get them more information so they can share it to the students. But it was also to help the counselors and maybe arm them with more information so they can also be a resource for students. And then finally, we did learn that having a website was important, which was good that we found that, but that they needed multimedia components. In other words, it can't just be a website that just has words, because it's not going to keep their attention. Even if they get there, it's not going to hold them. So you'll see some of the things with our modules that we developed. We'll show you an example, and some of the interactive formats and graphics that we designed. That really played a lot into the development of the site, what we learned from these groups. So that's really in summary, and again, I would really like to thank the College of Mass Communications at Texas Tech University, because they spend a considerable amount of time in helping us work through this, and we, again, look forward to finalizing our publications in this area to share some more of our results. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back over to Shannon, and Shannon's going to get us right into the website so you can actually see how we use that research to design our website. And I guess at this moment, if there's anyone here, and unfortunately I think the people over the web, we're not going to have the opportunity for you to ask questions, but are there any initial questions that anybody wants to ask here before we jump into the website? Okay. Okay, it's your turn. So hearing none, I will turn it over to Shannon.
As we get into the website, a couple of things to keep in mind as we go into it is that there is a huge volume of information, and we had to really work to make it all available in a very compact space. Because once you have students on a site, you don't have very long to get them engaged and keep them engaged. So you need as much information as you can available from the home page, and you'll see that when we get there. The other thing is you need a very, in some ways, very complex system, but in other ways a simple system to maintain a huge volume of data. And Ron will share information as we progress about how we use databases to drive that content, to simplify how we maintain the site, and we'll maintain the site going forward. Another key areas are strategic use of photos, colors, flash, and video components to reinforce messaging for high school students and even early college students to read text. And those of you who are educators know that people don't learn in just one genre. To read text is not enough. You have to reinforce those messages in other ways, because what they may see in a video might be the thing that impacts them, and they could have read it 5 times on a page and it never really makes sense to them. And so we tried to keep that in mind. We really enhanced the interactivity on the site, as you'll see as we go through. And one of the core areas that we really focused on was highlighting real-life experiences of others, because, and this was something that even as part of the grant RFP, the coordinating board had an understanding that there was a need for role models, particularly among underserved minority and rural students, because they have limited access to role models in healthcare professions. If you're in a rural community or even an underserved urban community, your only access may be through a hospital ER, or it may be in a rural community to know about a doctor or a nurse. But there are 90 different health careers in Texas, and you're not going to see all 90 of those careers in a rural community or an underserved urban community, or even know how to go and have a conversation with that health professional if that's the career you're interested in. So we tried to create a format online where students could learn about current health professionals in those careers, when they may not have direct access in their home community. So with that, let's go to the website we've developed, and this is where y'all will have to bear with me. We've developed a site that has 3 specific sections. Where's my arrow? 3 specific sections of content. One geared to the career seeker, and you'll see this here. I almost need a red pointer. Here at the top in the home page, let me just hit refresh. Y'all, this arrow's gonna... Vanessa, do you mind?
I don't mind driving at all.
Up there, will you hit the refresh button? And those of you who are participating with us on the webcast, you'll have to bear with me. I can't see what I'm doing from here. When you go to the website, you'll see that when you first load the web page, that here in the top left-hand side, there is a visual that comes on, a graphic that comes on that was moving images. And so there is movement and activity on the site as soon as it loads. And we've developed from the home page access to content for the 3 user groups: career seekers, parents and families, and educators. And you'll see that right along the Texas HotJobs header bar there. Oh, thank you, Dr. Davis. Yes, that's very good. And so that, no matter what type of user you are, from that area of the website, you can access the content that matters to you. As you refresh this page, a couple of other features that you note is that you see the picture there of the gentleman on the treadmill. When you refresh this site, that image changes out, and so we have approximately 10 to 12 different images of people who are current health professionals, all different ethnicities, all different careers and backgrounds, with a quotation from them about why they've chosen their career or what it is about their career that is really exciting. The other thing you'll see is on the left nav side, content. There's 20 different career categories: allied health, animal care, etc. And in each of those categories are drop-down menus for the 90 different health careers that we have content on. The graphic design and the navigation of this site was really difficult for us to get squared away because there is just such a large volume of data, and it needed to be presented in a way that was graphically engaging to high school students. You saw the flash component in that top left corner. We created the tagline, "Dream it, plan it, be it," and that was created and developed to reinforce, and you'll see it throughout the website, reinforce the idea of setting goals, planning for those goals, and reaching those goals. And you'll see content later on that gives them step-by-step processes for how to do that. Dr. Davis, if you'll click on that moving arrow, there are video components that we have shared here too.
I do have a role model. He is my uncle. He's an emergency medicine doctor.
My role model is my dad.
I do have a role model. It's my father.
My role model is a professor.
And my role model is my sister-in-law.
One of the best things my role models taught me is always persevere through everything.
One of the things that I learned from my mom, which is my role model, is that she always encourages me to strive to do my best.
Studying is hard work, pays off in the end.
He really influenced me to go into the medical field.
Actually went into a similar field and was really successful at it.
And if you're not going to do it 100%, then don't do it at all.
And even though it might be the highest score that you could have achieved on the test, the only thing that you can do is your hardest.
And there are 5 or 6 different videos that share different aspects of some of the messaging that we found was important. The role model, myths about college, that you don't have to know when you go to college what you want to do as soon as you get there, that it's okay if you change your mind and explore. Different things that reinforce the messages the students will see in text. And so we've shared those videos there on the home page in that format. Dr. Davis, if you'll scroll down, you'll see, actually before you scroll down, you'll see there are an area there for students to either follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. And when students go there, we have targeted messages, particularly on the Twitter site, that we feed through every week. Different health careers that we promote, with links to those career pages, or a news story that shares information that's current about that career, or even the how-tos, how to build a resume, how to set your goals, with links to those areas of our website so students can gain that direct access to that information. Now scrolling on down, you'll see you have under that More area, learn more about current professionals in the field. And then another area, create your own health career manager. That's an interactive component that I'll show you in just a little bit. But direct access from our website to all the key components that we've created. The Career Explorer, that's some of the curricular activities that Dr. Cox will talk about here in a little while. And then the Search for Training, and Dr. Davis, if you'll go ahead and click on that one. This map loads all of the different education institutions in the state that offer health professions training programs. And today that map is running a little bit slow for us. And we'll have to check on that. It may be the firewall here. But in each one of those regions, all the health professions training programs that exist will pop up here in a second with dots, and you'll see the number available in each location. Career seekers can view that map and search, and there they populate now. View that map and search by both region, if they're interested in staying close to home, which is something that's very important, particularly in the Hispanic audience, finding education opportunities close to home, but they can also search by career. So if they're interested in being a registered nurse, they can do a search, and only the registered nurse programs will come up. Then you can go and click on up above that map is a link that says View the List, and there is a direct link to each one of those education programs' websites that students can directly access from this map. And this content is available in Spanish on the Spanish language side of the map as well. With that, Vanessa, let's go to the Spanish language side, if you don't mind. And I'll show you there that we've translated all of the career content for the 90 careers into Spanish, as well as all of our career seeker career development materials and our parent section of materials that were newly developed for this website. That all exists on the site in Spanish. One of the features I'll show you from here, and it's just another flash component, but very important, because students, their initial interest in health careers is driven really by salary and job security. And so if you're in a classroom and you're talking to them, it's really, what can I make? And they want to, they're looking for the career that's going to pay the most, as most people are when they're in high school. And so one of the visual elements that we've added is up at the top. It's a scroll bar available on both the English and the Spanish side that it shows the career and lists the salary. And students can look at that and say, oh, well, if this career is this much, and then go to another career and pique their interest. That's really the only intent of that scroll bar at the top. But when you go down and dig into the site, you'll find more information about career and salary and comparisons there that I'll show you in just a minute. Vanessa, if you'll click on the Padres, and y'all have to forgive my Spanish translation. If you click on that section, that accesses information that, based on the feedback we got from parents, and you'll see there some graphics and quotes that really resonate with Hispanic families in terms of being engaged in their students' education and supporting it, and how important that is. That student there, she's actually a nursing student at Texas Tech University School of Nursing. She's from Presidio. Her parents only speak Spanish, and she goes home almost every weekend to provide help and assistance to her family while she's pursuing her education at Texas Tech. Presidio is not close to Lubbock, but that's a commitment that family has made to how important her education is. And so those are the kind of stories and the kinds of messages that we want to share on the website. One of the things that the content that we developed in our parent guide, and I'm going to direct you just for quick reference, all the content exists on the website, but one of the things we found is that, particularly for parents and families, just because it's on the internet does not mean they have access. And that's true even in our other HotJobs resources. And so we had created a small version of the print piece, and it's available in English and Spanish, that is a parent guide, and it shares information about why choose a career in healthcare, job security, salary, flexibility for your families, and then step by step how to navigate the process of education after high school. Because if you're a first-generation college-going family, and I was in that boat, it's hard to figure out exactly how to start. And so we've created a resource in both print and the web format to share some steps and how to get started and how to help your child find a role model, and how do you know what's important, the extracurricular activities, focusing on math and science content in school, that kind of thing, to help them parents better engage. The other thing that we've tried to relate here, and it came out of our research as well, is that it did not matter what level of education your family, that as a parent you had, whether you or not you were motivated, you could motivate your child into education or a health career. Because mothers who had a high school education, their students were motivated to health careers just as much as mothers who had college or higher, master's prepared. So even if you yourself as a parent do not have the education level that your children are desiring to pursue, you can still motivate your child and help your child reach those career goals. And that kind of encouragement was something we really wanted to share in this resource. So that's that on the parent side. If you'll show, Vanessa, if you'll scroll down a couple of, that chart in the green there, when you click on that, that's a chart that compares for health careers the salary and earning potential that you have with different levels of education. And the purpose of that chart is really to show, if you leave high school, and I know you're looking at that in Spanish, but if you leave high school and start working, here's the salary potential that you have. Green is starting salary, the pink color is experienced salary. And if you delay entry into the workforce for even a short time to receive an associate's degree, you see how much your salary potential and your earnings potential double over your lifetime. And so that's an important message, particularly for families who, because of their socioeconomic status, may feel that they have no choice but to directly enter the workforce out of high school. There are messages on the website to really encourage them to consider what even just a small amount of education and training will do for them and for their family long term. Okay, thank you. Dr. Davis, if we can go back to the home page, then we'll go directly into a career page. I mentioned there are 90 different health careers, and the career content, go to the registered nurse career under nursing. This table here has to load, and it'll clean itself up here in just a second. On each of the 90 career pages, we've broken down information as an overview of the career. What's the work environment like? What is it like? What is the opportunities for advancement, areas of specialization that are available in each career? You'll see there's that quick guide to the right of the picture shows salary as an annual and an hourly figure. High school students have no concept of annual salary. That's just $40,000 versus $60 doesn't, and what does that mean? But they do understand hourly salary because that's how they're paid, usually at minimum wage. So anything that's above minimum wage looks pretty good. The job outlook information that comes from the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is the federal, shows federally what the rate of growth in each career is. And for health careers, those stars, all health careers are experiencing growth. Some careers are growing faster than others, and the higher the number of stars there, the faster the growth rate that the Bureau of Labor has designated for it. Length of training and access directly to the professionals in the field content, and then what you see right there, the Career Explorer, Craig will talk about in a second, and then the roadmap. If I can Dr. Davis, if I can have you click on that roadmap. We went through and the HSTE staff with the third edition had created some simple roadmaps that showed the education pathways for each career. And we went in and redesigned those to, and if you'll hit refresh on that, Dr. Davis. Oh, that database was working a minute ago.
Refresh one.
If you'll refresh again. I'm holding my breath. Okay. Well, we'll go back and check. We'll check on that when we get home. When you go to this site and to these pages, for each career we've identified the different pathways of education, and you'll see noted by, and you've got a copy actually that says registered nurse in your packet if you want to refer to your handout. But you'll see that it shows the different pathways. A solid line notates what is required education. So in nursing, and this is the most complex one that exists because of the different steps that are available to advance your education into higher degrees, you can go for 1 year and get a certificate, but you can then go back to school and get an associate's degree, and you can go back to school and get a bachelor's degree, and then you can pursue a master's degree, and those listings show the different areas of specialization that you can pursue in a master's degree. And they've recently just, several programs in the state are developing doctoral degrees in nursing practice. And so each one of these tables will take you, show you for any career all of the different connections between moving from levels of education to advance your education and advance your career with the salary. The other thing that is available, and I don't know if you'll see it here today, but that area that says high school or equivalent, the health sciences cluster, when you click on that, that gives direct access to the Achieve Texas pathways and programs of study. And so a student or an educator for any career that we have here can go and look at what is recommended by Texas Education Agency in that Achieve Texas model for them to take, what classes they should take in high school to prepare for this career. If you'll close out of that, Dr. Davis, then go to click on the professionals in the field area right there, just above where the roadmap was. Yes, ma'am. I mentioned the need for role models, and we have created a database. We have an online survey that allows current health professionals, and we've invited over the last few months through the different health professions associations in the state, current health professionals to complete an online questionnaire where we ask questions like, how did you become interested in a health career? What challenges did you overcome as you were preparing for your career? Were you a first-generation college student? What is exciting about your career? What do you do in your day-to-day work? Questions that would help students who may not have access to a professional learn from other people's experience. And then we ask questions about what advice would you give to young people who'd be considering your career? What are the skill sets that are important for those career seekers to really develop if this is a career they're interested in? And so you'll see that the professionals' responses to those questions are shared in this online format. Go through a process. You know, they submit that online, and we have a review process where it's not automatically published, because there is the potential that someone who does not have any integrity might post content that we wouldn't want young people to see. And so we have a process of reviewing that, checking for grammar, making sure the content is valid before we actually post it. Right now we have about 60 different healthcare professionals who have participated by completing a survey. They have the opportunity, and some have not, as you saw there, posted a photo. And I think the photo is a very important piece. And so we follow up and try to follow up with them to get a photo to include, because that helps a student visualize the person in that career and in that work environment. This opportunity will be available for people to participate, you know, as long as the website is live. And you'll see a handout in your packet that is the invitation. So if I'll go ahead and solicit y'all's help. If you go back and you know health professionals that you would invite to participate, then we can get them on the website as well as a role model. That information is in a database, and Ron can talk a little bit more about that infrastructure. But right now I said we had 60. That database could hold 6,000. However many, it's scalable and expandable. So as many health professionals as would contribute, we could hold the content. Something we do have, and the website's not currently set up to present information in this way, is that students can go on and register on the profile, as I'll show you, and they enter their demographic information voluntarily if they want to, but that would include ethnicity, whether they're from a rural or an urban background. We've asked those same questions of our healthcare professionals in this section, and so at some point when I have enough health professionals in the pool, then students could search by different factors. If they want to see who are African American registered nurses, they could go in and search and review the profiles of those professionals only. And so we have the capability of having that kind of interactivity and searchability, so students can see professionals that they see are like themselves as we get more of those online. Let me see. I've gone through this a lot faster than I thought. So the roadmaps. Let's move, Dr. Davis, if you'll do the login area at the top. I'm going to log in as a career seeker. I'll show you some of this content. Scroll down. And I'll enter my username and password right here. If you'll just click me in, I'll just type my name. Am I hitting something over here?
I think you hit something over there.
Let me turn this off then. This did this a while ago. Yeah, go refresh, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. That's some of the visual stimulation that we've built into the... Yeah. Well, I didn't.
Have you got it?
Well, I turned this off. Go log in, Ron, because I turned this one off to fix that problem.
Well, they're logging in for you. I noticed in your book that it may be online if you don't have an ophthalmologist.
That's because ophthalmologist is a physician, and it's a specialty under physician. And I can talk about that area in just a second, because it is there are so many different career opportunities within the physician. And it's funny when you're in high school, and we've gone into high schools and asked students what you want to be, and they'll say, I want to be a pediatrician. And you say, oh, you want to be a doctor? No, I want to be a pediatrician. And so there is an understanding gap, and so all of the specialties that are physician specialties are listed under the physician career. Okay. So now we're logged in under, if career seekers have the opportunity to create a profile, as I mentioned, and enter some demographic, if voluntarily. The information that's required is a name, an email, their county, and their zip code. And that allows us to do a few different things. Number one, if you'll click on career comparisons, there students can go in and select their, and you scroll down, select their top 5 career choices. And for this person, you see they've chosen athletic trainer, environmental health specialist, etc. If you'll click on the area that says go to whatever the instructions are that is under that list, I can't read them.
Click here to compare and choose.
Yes, that space. If you click on that, it gives a quick view of the salary and length of training and the outlook for the careers that they've selected. And then down below, you can go through and say you want to change your mind and you don't want to be a community health worker, you want to do something else, then you can choose another career at will, Dr. Davis, and then update. And there's your new listing of careers as a quick area for them to compare and contrast. Then if you go over to your, and they can play with that, change that up as many times as they want. If you go over to the checklists area, here's some of the content that we have created. And we were going to create this in an interactive format where they'd actually fill it in online, but we already have almost 1,000 registered users, and data storage can become a significant barrier to their access to their information if they don't have access to a computer. And so we created these as PDFs that they can fill in and print, so they have them with them when they're at home. If say they don't have internet access at home, and a lot of students access things at school, you want them to have these resources wherever they're at, so they can be thinking and preparing for their career, not just when they're sitting in computer lab in the classroom. And so we've created these as PDF, and it'll show that college comparison grid, for example. If they're looking at 4 or 5 different schools, they can compare tuition, type of program, what kind of extracurricular activities the college offers, different aspects of their college experience that are factors for them into the decision-making process, and keep that as a simple tool for them to use as they look at the different colleges they're interested in. Then we've also got goal setting, give them tips for how to write goals, and then how to build their resume for in writing essays and personal statements for scholarship applications and for college admission and health professions training applications. Training just gives them direct access again to the educational institutions, and those will at some point they'll be able to save their top choices. To say they're considering 5 different universities, they could save those to their profile area if they like. That functionality doesn't exist yet, but you do see that it's listed all the colleges for each of the careers that they've selected. It lists all the colleges that offer that specific career. Yes, and all those links directly go to the website of that college or university. No, it doesn't. And the reason that it only goes to the main college web URL, because any other URL at a university system is subject to change at any given moment, and I can't maintain those kinds of URLs consistently. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for pulling up the Texas Tech one too, by the way.
So do these include colleges too?
Yes, these include
universities up there. So.
Well, and that's because when you look at athletic trainer, they are not associate degree programs. These do contain community colleges and public universities and private colleges as well. But the private colleges is a little bit difficult for us in some ways, and even in the community college level, we get our college information from the CPIS codes from the Texas, yes, from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and it depends on how a college has labeled their academic program. Searching those out is a process, and you'll find occasionally that we have failed to include a college, and if we get an email from someone, we're happy to and can easily update this to include the listings that are appropriate. So, Ron, is there anything else in this area to highlight before we move on to the modules with Dr. Cox? With that, I think we'll go.
I'm curious about the high school classes.
Those are the high school classes. That goes to the Achieve Texas programs of study. So, and we actually listed all of the 16 different areas because, at some point, if someone's decided that they're not interested in a health career, you need to give them the opportunity to look at something else, and that's not always a bad decision. So, okay, with that, let me turn it over to Craig to discuss the curricular elements of what's on the website.
Thank you, Shannon. So I think that real briefly, if we could go back to the slides, they're just like 2 slides. We just want to...
I think we need... Yes, go back. Okay. There you go.
So the next section, as Shannon was talking about, for the career seekers section, was really looking at the interactive component with career exploration modules. And what we did when we were coming up with this is we first identified, since this was a minority research grant, is we tried to identify those disease states that affect minority populations the most, like diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer, and then there was also substance abuse is actually pretty high on the list. And that sort of, we identified the top 5, and that sort of drove the development of all of our modules. So the next thing that we did is that we actually thought about, there's 92 careers that are actually represented in the book and on the website, and we wanted to create modules that actually incorporated as many of those that we could. Then there's a diversity of healthcare settings, whether you're in a pharmacy, whether you're in a clinic setting, whether you're in a hospital, whether you're in a laboratory, just to also show a diversity of settings within the module so that students know that you can work in several different areas. Another key component that we'll talk about in the educator section is that math, science building. In other words, to show students that maybe what they're learning in high school in their math and science classes, they're skills that they're going to use later, maybe at a higher level, once they start practicing as a healthcare professional. And so we developed math and science questions for each of the modules as well that they could work through as they're going through the module. Health risks. Health risk factors and behaviors such as smoking cessation, diet, cholesterol, blood pressure, all of those different things were all tied into each of these modules, because we also thought that if we could promote a little bit of health as they're working through this, that could also be positive. Something that we also worked on as we were building the modules through both our patients, that our actors and actresses that served as patients, but then also the professionals, were sort of the communication skills that were exhibited throughout each of these modules to just show students positive communication and good communication when you have it between health professionals or between a patient and a healthcare professional. And that again came out as we developed these as well. And throughout, as I'll show you on one of the menus here, that they always have access, because in each individual module there may be anywhere from 3 to probably as many as 7 different health careers represented within one module, and at any point they can go and access different parts of the site to gain more information about that specific field. So if we go to the next slide, just if you look at, for those of you, and I know if you're watching via webcast you don't have this, but if you, in your packet, for those of you that are here, this is just the first page of it. What we wanted to show you here is this is the breakdown. We developed 15 modules at this point. Each of the individual modules description is off there to the left in the first column, so you sort of have a snapshot of what it is. The second column shows the careers that are represented within that module. The setting is the third column, where the setting is that those professionals are demonstrating their job. And then finally the math and science standards that are linked to, like the tax system and other different competency standards, I guess, for the college readiness standards for the high school students. And so there was an actual map that was developed for each one of these modules. And so again, this was I wanted to just show this, or we wanted to show this just to show you that we didn't just randomly start developing modules. There was actually, it took a considerable amount of time and effort to sort of think out this whole process so that we could be sure once we had our final product we were representing a diverse group of things. So if you want to go to the next slide, so we developed a total of 15 modules and 62 individual healthcare scenes. So on average there was 4 scenes for each module. So there was over 60 scenes that we shot, and we're going to show you an example of one of those modules. 39 different health careers were represented in these modules, so we thought that was pretty good out of 92. 40 healthcare professionals served as actors and actresses, so it was a pretty big undertaking. We didn't use this. I wasn't Shannon, Ron, and I in every single video, because that would have got old. But we each played our one role. But then we found over 40 people to help us out in delivering this. There was a diverse group of patients and healthcare providers that helped us out. Again, once again, to show we had African American patients and also health professionals. We had Hispanic, we had Asian, we had a well-represented group to just show the diversity that does exist. Each scene ranged from 1 to 5 minutes in length, because holding the attention, probably the 5 minutes is a little bit long. But we know that when you're watching these videos, it's going to be hard to hold their attention much longer than a couple of minutes. So we tried to minimize that as much as we could. And then finally, those math and science questions, they were developed, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the educator section, but there's 3 levels of difficulty. So as the students working through the module, they can either pick level 1, level 2, or level 3, varying in difficulty, with 1 being the easiest and 3 the most difficult. So try to answer some questions, again, that are related to that module. And so that's just some of the numbers or statistics behind this. So with that, if we want to close the slide presentation, and we'll go back to the, yeah, I think if we just hit end show down there, it should. And then just go back to the website. And then if you click up it says student activities. This is, and you can access these from several different places, but if you scroll down and where it says career exploration modules, when they click on this, it will actually pull up a new window. And here you'll see off to the left is a listing of all of the 15 different modules. And we're going to go, as an example, we're going to go to the second one, hypertension. So when you click up on that, it will pop up a new window. And Ron, do you think we should hit F11? And if you could hit F11, it'll make it, should go to the full screen here. We'll see if it does. Well, and I'll start talking, and Ron, if you want to see. We're just going to try to make it full screen so you can see most of it, but when you come to this, it just gives you a brief description of the module and what the student is going to see as they work through a particular module. And at the very bottom, as we're pulling this up, there is a flashing arrow that's going to be just on the bottom of the page that you see down here, where when you click on that, it'll actually start the module. And what I wanted to show you is just an example, if it's hard for you guys to read, is it'll give them a description to sort of set the stage. And I'll just briefly read this one, that Claudia is a 35-year-old Hispanic female who has smoked for many years and claims that she doesn't exercise because she can never find time to do so. She regularly takes vitamins for her health, and today she's coming to the pharmacy because there was a deal on vitamins. And so that just sets the stage for the students. And then if you click on the blinking arrow, and so you see that it just shows, again, it set the stage for this. The patient or the individual walked in, had their blood pressure taken, and just one element that was added. And every single module is a little bit different. We tried to incorporate different elements. You saw the blood pressure sort of come up, and it's 160/96. So what ends up happening, and I'll just briefly describe it now, and you'll see it as we work through this module, but over on the right-hand side in the orange, where it says patient, 35-year-old female, Hispanic, smoker, little exercise, it will populate information as the student works through the module, so that they don't have to jot things down or anything like that. It will actually save it as they're working through so they can follow. But periodically it'll also ask them questions throughout, and it says here, which of the following blood pressures values would be considered a normal one? So if you click on A, which is the right answer, it will tell them, yes, you are correct, and it gives them a reason why that's correct and a little bit about blood pressure. Then if you click on the flashing arrow, we'll go to the next scene.
Good morning, ma'am. Can I help you with anything today?
Good morning. Yes, I just took my blood pressure at the machine that you have over there, and I wanted to see if you could help me with the results to see if they're normal.
Okay. Your blood pressure reading is 160/94. And that's a little bit higher than what we like to see in most individuals. You know, for most people, we like to see their blood pressure reading below 140/90.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you have high blood pressure. Because there's a lot of things that can affect the blood pressure reading: exercise, stress. All of this can affect your blood pressure reading. That's why we recommend that you go ahead and take your blood pressure a couple of times on different days to see if your blood pressure is consistently high or it's just that one value.
Okay.
Okay. Are you by any chance going to go see your doctor anytime soon?
I am. I have an appointment with him in about 2 days.
Well, that's good. I would encourage you to discuss, you know, this blood pressure reading with your doctor. Tell him it's 160/94, and then, you know, see what he can do about it, and he'll probably give you more information about high blood pressure.
Okay.
All right?
Sounds good.
Questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
So then if you click on the arrow there, it'll give them the opportunity, if you say where it says to click up at the top, it says to learn more about blood pressure means, click here, and you can click there, and it give them a description about the pharmacist who was the role in the video. They can click here to learn more about a pharmacist. It'll tell them about the role of the pharmacist. And so there's, again, as they work through this video, we're hoping, or the module, we're hoping that they can learn as much or as little as they want to. They could just keep on clicking the arrow and never read anything if they don't want to. But if somebody wants to actually take time and learn a little bit about the disease states or the risk factors or even the professional in the video, they have the opportunity. So if you just want to click at the bottom one, and we're not going to watch all these.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
What brings you in to see the doctor?
Well, the other day I was at the pharmacy and I had my blood pressure checked, and it was a little high, I think. So I wanted to come in and get it checked out.
Okay, well, that's my understanding as well. But before Dr. Smith comes in to see you, I'd like to take your blood pressure and your heart rate.
Okay.
So if you can relax your arm for me, I'll put that for you.
And if you want to click the arrow, we'll just go ahead. So I think that you're getting the idea that these it actually ties together, from her being in the pharmacy, and then the next thing she's talking to the pharmacist, then it's the couple days later she sees her physician, and so on and so forth. So there's like 5 scenes that are within this module. And then as things come up, see how her blood pressure sort of populates over to the right in the orange part. You could see each of the descriptions that each of the blood pressure readings, and it says 2 blood pressures are high. And then down here another question is asked, and if you want to click, Dr. Davis, on smoking, stress, everything but watching TV, which isn't a major risk factor. Probably should be. And then you hit check answer, and then just hit the blinking arrow for time. We'll just go through down at the bottom. And then there would be another video, and this is Dr. Smith. But
Good
again,
afternoon,
for time's sake, if you wanted to click on the arrow.
Here they have
But that was Dr. Smith, and now we pop up those risk factors again, but this time it tells them if they want to learn about them. So if you click like on smoking, for instance, gives them a little description about smoking. If you go to the second one, lack of physical activity. So on and so forth. So there's little components as they're working through this website if they would like to. So just continue with the module. And this is another thing that we tried to embed within here. It's like you now have the opportunity to, number one, listen to the physician, because the physician gives them a prescription. Do you want to go to the pharmacy and get your prescription filled, or do you want to not listen to them and just do your own thing? And you'll see, if you do either of these, and again for time's sake we won't click on these, but I think that what you would find if you click on the one that you listen to it, the next scene is they go to the pharmacy and they get their prescription filled. If they click on the one where it says they don't get it filled, it has this long description and says you possibly could have a stroke because you didn't take your blood pressure. So again, it just gives us, sometimes students, I think, having that choice that they could sort of pick and choose what they want to do. It just teaches them a little bit about not only careers but disease states and risk factors and all of that. So I think that sort of shows you an example of how that works. So I think what we'll do here is, if you go, you think we should just, I think if we close that window, you think?
No.
Okay, well, if you just go over to the career links, and if you were to click on that, for instance, you see how it pops up. nurse, dietitian, physician, these are the different professions that are represented in this module. And I wouldn't click on these now, but if they, as Shannon was talking about the different sites that are both in English and Spanish where it tells you about a nurse and had a picture of a nurse and how much they made, all of that, if they clicked on nurse, it would take them to that part of the website, and so on and so forth. If you go down to roadmaps right below that, it would, and even if you clicked on it, it would just change the title to roadmaps, but then it's the same people and you could access the roadmaps that Shannon was showing. See more modules, if you click on that, it pops up all of the modules, and if you slowly roll over each of them, it gives you the description so that the student, and then don't click on any of them, but if you wanted to, it would take you out of this to the next module so they could, if they were interested, they could go pursue one of those. The next one is the math and science, and I do want to show you this. And if you want to make this the full screen as much as we can. So right here, oh, that's okay. Here, go ahead and close that. I just want to show one other thing. Go to math and science again and make that full screen as much as we can. So right here, this is where they're math and science. And again, this is specific for Module 2. So if you go over where it says level, and it says click here to change, if you click over on the, you can click there and go to level 3, for instance, and then hit click to start so they can pick their level. It'll ask them different questions. And again, I'm not going to read the question, but go ahead and select A, which is the right answer, down at the bottom. And it'll say correct. Then it logs off to the upper right-hand side. It's kind of hard to see in green that they got 1 out of 1. And now they're going to question 2. And it says blood pressure is caused by. And if you select number 1, A again, it'll be correct. And it'll say 2 out of 2. And then on this one, if we went and you click, say, caffeine.
That's correct.
Or, wait, let's do a wrong answer. Let's go to fat. It'll say incorrect, fat, and you'd have to read it. But anyway, if you click on the wrong answers, it'll tell them why that answer is wrong as well. And so it again gives them an opportunity to learn a little bit as they're working through this. So down in the bottom right-hand side, there's a click there, and you can see that there are some questions that require them to do some minor calculations, and so there's a calculator that's available on every single question if they needed to use that. So if you want to close that, and then down at the bottom left, if you want to close the math and science questions. So that just gives you, again, I think, a brief overview of some of the components of the module. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about the math and science. But if you go down to role models, the next little thing, it again would link you to role models. The one right below that I do want to show you related vocabulary. These are a bunch of vocabulary words that are sort of been embedded with that the healthcare professionals are maybe saying, or words that appear that the students, again, just by rolling over it, it pops up a definition of what blood pressure means, or cholesterol, or heart rate, and it gives them a little description. Again, some students may never get to this point, and they might just say, hey, I don't need to do that. But I think there might be some students this might be interesting to them. But it's also a great thing that you could use in class as well. And then finally, the health facts at the bottom. This is just gives you some interesting health facts about the module and some links to different websites that are active that they could go to where you wanted to learn more about hypertension and things related to that were expressed within that module. So those were the main things that I wanted to show you with the modules. And again, that is just one. You saw 3 scenes out of one module, and there's actually 15 modules, and on average there's 4 scenes in every module. So there's lots of things that are going on that the students can actually have access to and play around with these modules. So I guess with that, if you want to just close that window, because it's a separate window, and what do we have to hit, F11?
Yeah, this one you need to go back. I think this is our main website window.
Yep. And we'll go back. And then, Dr. Davis, if just real briefly, I'm going to show just a couple of quick slides and then one other component of the website. So if we could just minimize that for a second. And then, yeah, if you click there, and it's right behind, one right before that. If we go one slide earlier. So I guess the last major component of the website to show you was the educators section. And this is a completely new section that didn't previously exist. And we worked closely with the East Texas AHEC organization to develop different components of this section. The one thing that they really helped us with were the math and science questions, and we'll talk about how those were developed as well as the lesson plans. But they also created lesson plans that could be used in the classrooms. If you didn't want to use the actual modules and have the students online doing things, there was actually lesson plans that were developed related to the modules that could be downloaded as a PDF and be used in the classroom as different activities. And we'll show you an example of that as well. And then there's RSS feeds for healthcare news that we'll show you on this website that gives you some updated health news that just is there, new stuff every single day if you wanted to access that. And then just really access to all of the different materials that Shannon went over earlier. So if we go to the next slide, the development team you could see there from the East Texas AHEC organization, they played, these were the individuals that were on the development team, but there was a number of other people that helped them out in the development of these different materials, from the classroom materials, lesson plans, as well as the math and science questions. So what happened is that we developed the actual module scripts. The module scripts were then passed on to them. They took these scripts and then developed classroom formatted materials and lesson plans that were closely related to these modules. And when they developed them, just like it took us, it was a long drawn out process to develop just what the framework of the modules would be, they underwent a significant process as well to develop each one of these lesson plans. And so if you want to click on the next slide, just wanted to show you that each of these lesson plans were developed, and then the lesson plans were evaluated on a 1 to 5 rubric based upon appropriateness for high school, relevance to the module topic, were the instructions clear, was the content correct or valid. So again, it wasn't that they just created a lesson plan and we just threw it up on the website. They actually had a team that reviewed it, graded it on a rubric, and if significant changes needed to be made, they made those changes before it was passed on to us and then put onto the website. So I think with that, the next thing that we could do is go back to the website and show you the last component here. And if we go over to where it says educators on the far, and if we click on this will take you into the educator side, and just like the career sakers, they can create a profile as an educator, and Shannon's going to log in here so you can see the different components of this site. And we'll just show you a few examples here. And so the main thing that, and again, just to point out a few things, we're really only going to click on probably just a couple of these. But I think you see like the HotJobs printable pages, that would link you back to the individual careers. The references, there's different references that would help an educator get some different information that might help them in the classroom. Student checklists that Shannon had gone over that the students could fill out if they wanted to give these to their students to fill out in the classroom. It's something they could access. What professionals have to say, were the professionals in the field. And so a lot of these different components are very similar to other things things that you could access in other places on the website as well. One of the things I did want to point out is the classroom activities. If you click on that one, this brings you into a component where there are both existing, or I guess before we started this development of this website with the grant, there were a number of different things that had already existed, educational materials that could be used in the classroom. If you went all the way down to the bottom, if you want to just scroll down there, you could see that all of these are active links to different activities. the ones that we really focused on is if you scroll up to the top right here and you see where it says Module 1 through Module 18, if you go to Module 2, say hypertension, since that's the one I showed you an example of, what would pop up is again a PDF that gives you a lesson plan that was an activity that was developed related to that module that could be used in the classroom. And again, this is separate from the module, but it has a whole bunch of description of the activity and what you need the students to do and what the role of the teacher would be. And so there is one of these lesson plans, and again, there's an example for those of you that are here in person. There is an example of a lesson plan, the hypertension one, in your packet. But there's one of these was developed for every single module. And so there are, I think this could be a great resource for educators to actually use in the classroom. And so if you want to close out or close that, or actually just hit the back arrow. We'll just hit the back arrow on this. And then if you want to scroll up to the top again. And just to explain just a couple of these other things is there are Spotlight on Success is another one of the boxes, which is we're going to give the opportunity for students to sort of highlight different educators that they think have made a difference in their lives, and it'd be the opportunity to put those on this website as well. And then the educator's blog, if people are interested in that, and you can click on that if you'd like. Once you're logged in to this website, there's the opportunity to interact with other educators from around the state that maybe are also members, and you could come in here and access information and have some communication that way as well. So, and you can go ahead and close that window. So again, I think that gives you just a basic understanding of the educator side as well, and just really as a resource overall, the website, there are the three major components: the career seekers, the parents, and the educators, and you can really link almost everything from all aspects of the website. And so with that, I think that I was going to turn it over now to Shannon, who is going to talk about, or actually I'm going to turn it over to Ron, who is just going to talk about how all of these things are sort of functioning behind the scenes. Because once you develop a website that has this many different components, I think that when you see the database that sort of drives all this, as Ron will talk to you about, that was really an important feature, especially when it comes to updating things in the future as things change. So with...
I'm going to have to leave early.
Yeah.
I've got just a couple of questions. The latest of the standards. I just have a couple of questions related to the standards that you reference throughout your website, and that is the tax standard, which is the assessment, and my question would be why the tax assessment as the connection versus the text, which is the actual curriculum component for public ed. And the second question is related to the college readiness standards that you reference. Are those Texas standards? If that's the case, we would encourage you to actually call them the Texas College and Career Readiness Standards, because that's the official formal name of that. Because there are all kinds of standards out there in terms of college readiness. Like the TEX is specific to Texas. The TEX is Essential Knowledge and Skills. The TCCRS are specific to Texas, and you know the national core is going on now, so we want to make sure we don't get confused with. And ACT has college and career college readiness standards, so that's just a recommendation. But as far as the tax piece is concerned, why using the assessment, which gets into when we go to end of course exams, you're going to have to change that in terms of using the text, which is the actual curriculum. And those standards, you wouldn't necessarily have to make changes if your reference point is the text and not the tax. Anyway.
And we have both. It was just that the ones that we listed on this presentation were the tax, and we do need to update to say the Texas College Readiness. But if it's beneficial on the website, we can put both the tax and the TEAC. Is it TEX or TEACs? TEX standards. So we can make all of those available.
My name is Ron Gaddis, and I own a company called Visual Reality Productions. We were involved in the third edition website and brought it to fruition. It was online for 3 years. We updated that website with a database that allowed users to actually log in, put their information into the website so they could log in. That website was built in Flash, so when we went forward and tried to conceptualize how we're going to make this thing work, we realized immediately one of the problems with the first website was that there was no easy way to add a career. There was no easy way to add a salary. If you had a university that their curriculum changed, there was no easy way to go change anything in the website. References like tax are all embedded in, hard-coded into the website. So it involved me for every change that was going to occur on the website. So with this website, what we did is we developed around a database-driven website. So Dr. Davis, if you could pull up the registered nurse, it's probably the easiest place to just see. So as you look at the nursing registered nurse site, the information in the database, such as salary, it's probably going to change every 3 years or could change every 3 years. The ticker at the top that has salary information is driven from that database. The salary range, the hourly range, the outlook, all the information there, including professionals in the field. If we get a new professional in the field to submit the survey, we can add them. So this is all driven, all that information is driven by a database. So 3 years from now, if we want to update the information, it's done in a database, and it goes all the way through the modules into the roadmaps. So the salary information changed in one place changes multiple pages, and it's easy to do. We also developed in the third edition, where we upgraded, we have the login page for the users, the career seekers. In this, we also upgraded so that we also have the educators login area. So now we can track who's logging in, who's using the website, not only from a career seeker, but also the educator. What information are they using? We can also see how often they access the website. There's a statistics that's driven by the website, so we can actually track who's hitting the website, how often, what the hits are, and so forth. If we go into, I guess we need to see the next foil for databases that are pertaining to the modules. Dr. Davis?
The next slide.
The next slide. The modules presented a very unique problem because these were actually developed without the video. It was developed simultaneous. While they were shooting video, I was developing the programs to drive the modules. So the module area came together actually with text to begin with, and then we dropped in the information, but they're also database driven. So that we can add modules if we need to. We can add new careers to the modules if we need to. There's a lot of information driven from the database that can change all parts of the website. Going to the next slide. It's the wrong way, isn't it?
Can you go the other direction?
Yeah, the direction. The university database that you saw has the name of a college, has the URL, so if you've got a live link on each location. For the map, we also can have another cross-reference database, and I won't bore you with a bunch of details, but it's got the GPS location as well as a zip code for the university. So that way we can add a new university and it shows up on the map, because all we're looking for is a zip code and a GPS location. If a school adds a new curriculum, we change it in the database, or we can take it out of the database and we've got a new career added in there. If someone wanted to add a new career, which happened, I guess we had 3 new careers this year, you can add it into the database. You have to create a couple of pages to contain the information, the basic information. But if you create that career in the database, the link shows up on the left-hand side throughout 650 pages in English and Spanish. So before, adding a career was a significant task. Now you add it, and I can literally, if you give me the text, English and Spanish, we can have it up within 4 to 5 hours. So it's a significant change that we've made here. The math and science, is there a floor for the math and science? Yeah, one next floor. The math and science, because I wanted a kind of a structured database where we could actually add more math and science questions at any time. All the information is contained in a database, and you can almost see it as an Excel format. We gave the criteria of what was to be in those databases. That include the questions, what happens if they click the wrong answer, what they got if they had the right answer, if it was an image problem or a word problem, if it had a single answer or multiple answers. It's all contained in the database. So tomorrow, if someone comes up with a new question or 10 new questions, we add it to the database and it shows online. So basically the website could be, you could modify it with different salaries, different information, and have it for a different state if you modified the graphics.
Thank you, Ron. That gives you a little bit on the infrastructure that's behind the scenes that drives... I'm sorry, my mic was off. That gives you a little bit about the infrastructure that was behind the scenes that drives that website. Next, let's talk a little bit briefly about our utilization. The website, like I say, has been in existence for about 3 years. In 2007, the site averaged 5,000 visitors per month. In 2009, beginning October 1 to November, we measured. With the new site online, the site averaged just a little less than 20,000 visitors. We currently have 924 registered users in the career seeker side, and you can see that it's largely underserved audiences in terms of Hispanic and African American. 23% of our registered users, though, did not report their ethnicity, and if you look through their names, you do see that our Hispanic, our percent Hispanic would be higher if people actually reported their ethnicity on that. That is unique visitors. Yes. Next, here's just a chart of that same utilization, and you can see the spikes and dips for weekends. A little bit on visibility and searches. TexasHotJobs.org currently ranks #2 on Google and Bing when someone searches health careers in Texas. #1 is a website called TexasHealthCareers.org. And a little bit about that site. That site I was reviewing just a couple of weeks ago. That site is actually a site that belongs to one of our HotJobs partners, the East Texas AHEC, and had been a regional website for East Texas for quite a while. And we are now looking at redeveloping that site to be the portal that enters Texas HotJobs on the career seeker, health information, health career exploration side for your K through undergrad audience. And then another site that the Texas AHEC's partner on called TexasHealthMatch.org, and that website is a job-seeking website. TexasHealthMatch.org is a site that potential employers can go to and list job opportunities for any kind of health profession that's available, and people who are seeking jobs in healthcare can also register on that site as a job seeker, and the website actually goes through a match process based on the criteria that both the employing organization and the job seeker enter. And so we are beginning looking at, with these two websites now in existence in a very advanced state, making that TexasHealthCareers.org website the portal website for both of those. So anyway, we come up number 2. Texas Hot Jobs comes up number 2 on those major searches. The top search terms that direct people to this site are various forms of hot jobs in Texas, Texas jobs, and cool jobs. Now, if you notice when people are typing in searches that are the top searches that get them to the Texas Hot Jobs website, they've not typed in anything about a health career. And that may seem strange, and when I first looked at it, it's like, oh my gosh, they're not typing in about health career, but they're getting to hot jobs. And then I thought, oh wow, they're not typing in about a health career, but they're getting to hot jobs. Because what that does for you, if you're searching for a health career in Texas and you're coming up number 2, and then you're searching for a hot job or a cool job in Texas, and you're coming up number 1, then you're getting an audience who's looking for jobs in Texas but may not have considered health careers as the job. And that means that you're going to pique the interest of people who may never have considered a job in health career to explore your site and say, hey, this may be a job I would be interested in. And so I think that gives you the opportunity to target an audience who may never have visited the website if they're only thinking health careers. So I think that's actually a strength for the website and for us. Another point of interest, and I think it supports for us our reasoning in making so much of the site available in Spanish. 4 out of the top 50 search terms that were typed in to get to our website were Spanish phrases. Various forms of interest in health careers in Texas to very specific health career names, like I believe it was histologico, whatever the Spanish phrasing is for a histologic technician, was one of the top searches. And so I think that really supports the fact that we did and that there is a need to have this information available in the Spanish language. So if we move on. One of the things I did want to say is that the Texas Hot Jobs website, and this goes a little bit to sustainability. Number 1, it existed before the grant in a much smaller scale, but it also does not exist in a vacuum. It has tremendous support from the Texas AHECs across the state, and it's AHEC staff go into high schools and work with high schools across the state to promote health careers and provide resources about health careers to high school counselors and health science technology education teachers. 2 of those tools, and I've brought copies here today, are the parent guide, which I mentioned earlier, and the actual Texas Hot Jobs book. And this is a 144-page book that lists all the same career information you've seen on the website today in a print format. And a print format is very important because not everybody has access to the internet. We've actually talked over the last few years as we're developing these resources about going to an online format only. And each time that comes up for discussion, it's a matter of cost. Is it worth printing these books versus not? And we get right back down to not everybody has access. The other piece of that is the print books are used primarily in health science technology education classrooms, and Dr. Parks could speak to this, but it's the only, for many health science technology education programs in schools, it may be the only career exploration resource that they have, and that allows them to focus their other financial resources on different kinds of curriculum to support that health careers development. And so the books are used primarily in the class. We also have Hot Jobs business cards. We pass these out across the state at health fairs, career fairs. So we're getting a significant amount of information in the hands of people to promote the use of the Hot Jobs website. The other thing is links from other websites. The 4th leading referrer to our Hot Jobs website is from the Department of State Health Services website. And so those linkages between other, whether it be the Texas Workforce Commission or Department of State Health Services or the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, people are using those links to get to the Hot Jobs website, and maybe even from our website back into other organizations as well. And finally, as part of this project, we worked with a partner in messaging who developed for us a series of radio PSAs I didn't bring any of those with me today to play, but they're available in both Spanish and English language. And those were developed to be a tool that our local partners from across the state could access and use in their local markets. And the thinking there is that particularly for Spanish language audiences, the radio is a very important source of information. And they will hear it on the radio before they will go to a website. And so that's an important referral source to direct Spanish speakers in some of our communities into a web format for information. So we have those PSAs available. They've already been used, and they've just been made available within the last 6 weeks or so, but our AHEC in El Paso has already had a chance to utilize those PSAs and actually go in and work with a local Spanish TV station to promote HotJobs through the Spanish language TV station there in the El Paso area. So we see some use of that. A little bit on next steps. The website is kind of a live creature and is constantly needing revisions and monitoring. We'll continue with our use of Twitter and the Facebook, and continue to invite participants to expand the HotJobs Health Professionals role model section. The other thing is we've already had, even as we've kind of wrapping up development now, a few new careers that have surfaced, and we need to research those and get those added to the website. What you see there, this college life pilot test, we had the idea of doing a reality TV show with current college students, and we've actually had some students walk around campus with cameras and shoot some of their experiences. And I had one just almost ready to show today, but it was a student who's in a lab doing gel electrophoresis on DNA. And while it's only 3 or 4 minutes of him doing that activity, that kind of demystifies science and lab and college life for students in high school, and they say, oh, well, that one, I could do that, kind of thing. And that's the intent of that, is to provide a little bit of a glimpse of what the real college life is like to high school students. So we're hoping that we can make that take off and have several episodes, if you will, of that online available for students to watch. And then finally, we've got our sustainability models that we had created. If you want to advance on that, we have two functions. And I won't refer you back to the website, but at the bottom of our home page and core website areas, and then at the bottom of every career page, there's the opportunity for organizations who have aligned missions to advertise on the website. And those would be healthcare employers, institutions of higher education, health professional associations, other state agencies, etc., who would like to highlight any of their own resources or their employment opportunities can advertise on our website. So we're not going to have any Netflix or the kinds of stuff you see on general websites on ours. They have to be aligned with our mission to be eligible to advertise. And then the other area that we're very excited about is that there's a couple of states who have expressed interest, and a national organization as well, in exploring how our website and the infrastructure that we've built could be used and transferred to their state, or to develop a national level website with similar content. And so we're beginning conversations about that now with those states and those organizations, and see where that may take us. So, we set out of the research, and Craig, I'm going to say this, but jump in as you feel need. The scope of our research was a little bit limited by our resources, but we did find out of our studies that there are some areas and opportunities for other study. Teenagers, while they do use websites, are not as skilled as we may think that they are in how they find the information they need. So there's the opportunity, potentially in the education arena, to help students with skill building in terms of searches and internets, and even understanding the validity and the credibility of the information that they're viewing. Because there's so many areas of information on the website that really are not true or credible resources. The other thing is that the understanding, we got the teens' perspective on their communications with their parents and other people and how they're motivated, but it would be interesting to know what the comparative parent perceptions are. Did that teen say that they talked 15 times to their mother? And did the mother say, yeah, we talked 15 times, or did the mother say, yeah, we talked twice? And the nature of those communications, getting the perspective of the parents' side on those, because that social network and those kinds of communications we found and appear to be from our studies to be the most important influencer. Whether it's a parent or with a health professional or with peers, those appear to be the most important influencers of motivation. And then we also saw that, and this I think could be something of interest to study, is that even though Hispanic culture is patriarchal, and so the father figure is very important there, that the communications with the mother appeared to have the most influence on students' motivations into career and in knowledge about health careers. And it would be interesting to know the dynamics of why that may be the case, and see if that may give us some other factors to consider in how we message and how we share information. So, and then opportunities for other web resources, whether it's through HotJobs or something else. This tool has been designed for career seekers, middle school, high school, and early college. But there is opportunity, I think, to enhance tools for college-age students and for students who are currently in health professions training programs, and it would be like the next step past HotJobs. And we see this as an opportunity for retention of students through their health professions training and into their career. And so you see that in peer-to-peer communication, which we've not implemented here because underage students and peer-to-peer communication can be a little bit dicey in terms of monitoring, but for an older audience may be quite appropriate. And then more in-depth materials on study and learning style tools geared specifically to health professions training students. Next, just a slide to thank our partners and contributors. While Texas Tech University Health Science Center, School of Pharmacy, and the Institute for Rural and Community Health received the grant, it took the efforts of a lot of different people from across the state to make it happen, and would not have been successful without each and every one of them. So, Dr. Davis, I think that's it for questions and comments, and we'll turn it back over to you. I think we wore them out.
Well, thank you very much. For those of you that have been watching online, we're going to archive this, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have it up. You have some contact information for Craig, Shannon, and Ron. You can also feel free to email me. Again, my name is Dr. Vanessa Davis. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Programs here at the Coordinating Board, and if you go onto our website, you should be able to easily find my name. So thank you very much.